Hi, I'm Lizzie and this is Laura, and we are currently sailing on board Marella Explorer. We are on a 7-day itinerary which is called Magical Mediterranean. We are starting our cruise off in Palma and we will finish in Corfu.
If you don't want to miss anything we get up to on board this cruise or any of our other cruises, make sure you subscribe to our channel.
Our day started extremely early this morning. We needed to be at Birmingham Airport for about 3:30 in the morning. Unfortunately, neither of us managed any sleep at all, so it's going to feel like a very long day.
We had booked on-site parking at Birmingham Airport in Car Park 1, which is the multi-storey next door to the terminal. We drove straight to the airport, and that is probably about a 30-minute drive for us. So it's not too bad a journey at all, especially at that time of day. We did have some difficulty when we got to the car park though. We struggled really with finding a space that Lizzie was comfortable parking in.
All the other cars were just really big.
It was full of giant cars, and also we did end up in a space that said permit holders only at one point, so we were a little bit confused in there. We'd never used that car park before, but now we know. We would find it a bit easier next time. We paid, I think it was £91 with blue light card discount for the car park for the week, which we thought was a really good price, especially when you compare it to the cost of parking in Southampton, for example, for a cruise.
We had already checked in online, so we had our boarding passes. We just needed to do a luggage drop. We got directed through to the machines to do it ourselves, and then you weigh the suitcases, you put on the labels. We were both within the range what we were supposed to be in, and then you had to lift it up onto the conveyor belt, which then stopped working. No, it was the scanner that stopped working.
It was the scanner, yeah.
So we had to move them onto the other one, but it was really quick and efficient, and there were lots of staff around to help anybody who was finding any difficulties. We then got through security super quickly. This year, Birmingham Airport seems to be operating a lot better than last year, and there were no queues at all.
When we got through to security, we decided to go to Wetherspoons, which was actually very, very busy for this time of morning, and we did find a table and ordered ourselves a sausage sandwich each and had a glass of Bucks Fizz. We do think that's a bit of an airport tradition of ours now, so we couldn't resist doing it. And everything came to our table very, very quickly from ordering, and it was just sort of bog standard Wetherspoons, but no complaints here.
We were sat actually right in front of one of the screens, so it was really easy to see when our gate was called, and we were at gate 49G. We'd never actually been to this area of the airport before. We got there and there were quite a few people around. We did manage to find a seat, and then they called people who had pushchairs or needed assistance first of all to board the plane. Once they had been called, they then just said, anyone else getting on the flight to Palma? So obviously at this point then there was quite a long queue. We just sat back and waited. We knew the plane was not going to go without everybody who was in that queue. So once we got through the boarding gate, we were then put on a bus. We always laugh about getting on buses because usually we think you can walk it, but actually this time it wasn't within walking distance, and the bus took us to the plane.
We were a little bit late getting onto the plane for a 6 a.m. takeoff, and then as a result of that I think we missed our slot, or there were a few planes waiting at the same time, so we're about 15 minutes late taking off, which wasn't too bad to be honest, and we did manage to make that time up during the flight. We
found the flight quite comfortable. We were sat opposite each other across an aisle, which we actually quite like to do. They offered a hot food service where they came and asked people for orders first. Once they'd been taken, then they did a trolley drink service and then finished off with a duty-free service. So all in all, it was very quick on the plane because it was just over 2 hours. And as we said, the plane was quite comfortable.
So when we arrived at Palma Airport, that's when things started to get a little bit more confusing and not as smooth. There was a bit of a wait for the plane to get stairs attached, which was probably about 20 minutes before we were able to get off the plane. So we were sat on the tarmac there for a bit. And then we had to get on a bus over to the terminal. Again, it was a journey that needed a bus. We couldn't have walked it.
We have actually never been to Palma Airport before, so we were quite surprised to find that we were walking through departures when we were obviously an arrival. It's quite a walk to get to then the e-gates that you use to scan your passports. Here there was a massive queue. There seemed to be a number of flights arrive at the same time, a flight from Manchester, a flight from East Midlands, and you just got sent to a random queue. and they seem to be a bit temperamental, the gates. So they often wouldn't work for somebody, and then it would say, you need assistance, but no assistance was happening, and then they'd just open. Once you got through the gate, you then had to get your passport stamped, and that bit was quite efficient.
We then had to continue on through into the baggage hall where we needed to collect our suitcase. The flight attendant told us on the plane that we'd need to do this, and to be honest, the baggage came off quite quickly here, probably because we'd waited so long to get through customs. But we were able to collect our suitcase quite quickly and then head through the arrivals doors into the exit area of the airport, where we were just sort of looking for anybody that had any Marella signage, because we weren't really sure what the process would be and where we were supposed to go at this point.
We spotted a member of Marella staff in the airport, and they were giving out like a getting to know us information sheet, and she told us which direction to then walk. We headed that way, and then we got sent to a coach by a member of staff. When we got onto the coach, there were a number of people on there that were confused about whether they were in the right place or not. They didn't check us off on a list or anything, so we were a little bit unconfident. We were a little bit worried that could leave people behind, to be honest.
The coach transfer was about half an hour long, and we arrived at the cruise terminal then for about 11:15, so we were super early to embark the ship, which was really nice. When we first got to the cruise terminal, the coach stopped and somebody told us what we would need to do. The doors opened and people started getting off the coach. We were then told to get back on the coach, and it pulled forward probably about 10 metres before we were then allowed to get back off again and go into the terminal building to check in.
Once we entered the terminal building, we found this to be quite a smooth process. We were directed first of all to a table where there were cruise cards on there. They asked for your flight and your surname and then gave you your cruise cards. You were then sent round to a check-in desk where you had your photo taken to go with your card, and you gave your credit card details. After that, you went up the escalator to security, where it's the usual type of security that you would have going through an airport or a cruise terminal, where they check your bags and you go through the metal detectors. Before we knew it, we were on the ship.
We had read on the information sheet that our cabins wouldn't be ready until 3 p.m, so we were super early onto the ship for that. However, when we arrived onto the ship, we were directed to our cabin so that we could drop our hand luggage off, which we thought was really good. Saved us having to carry any heavy bags around with us on the ship, and meant we could relax and enjoy ourselves a little bit more. We'd also both packed a change of clothes so that we could change into something more summery, so we took the opportunity of being in the cabin for that very brief period to get changed before we headed out.
We then headed up to deck 11, where it is the pool area, and we were delighted that it was sunny. We sat out there for a little bit and ordered ourselves a can of Diet Coke and a can of Fanta. We have taken out the premium drink package, with probably this being the main reason that we wanted the cans of pop. We then met Dan and Jay from Sail Away magazine, who we have deliberately booked the same cruise as them, so they arrived about half hour or so after us. And then we all sat down and enjoyed a couple of drinks in the sunshine.
Dan and Jay have both sailed on board this ship before, so we took the opportunity to get them to give us a tour. And whilst we were on that tour, it coincided with needing to head to muster stations, so we were able to get our cards scanned at the muster station. The muster process on board was really smooth. You just had to head to your muster station between a certain period of time, which was, for us, was between 1:30 and 2:30 p.m, to get your card scanned. And then at some point whilst you were back in your cabin, watch the video on your cabin TV.
While we were on this little tour of the ship, we also took the opportunity to head to reception, because we wanted to inquire about keeping our cabin on the last day. We have got a really late flight home on our last day, so we don't want to be out of the cabin at 8 a.m. and then sort of homeless all day long. So they told us that they would let us know it might be the same cabin or it could be a different cabin, and that the charge was £45.
By this point, we were also starting to feel a bit hungry. It had been a very long time since we'd eaten. So we headed up to the marketplace, which is the buffet on board. If we're honest, we weren't very impressed with the selection that was on offer in there. We managed to have a few chips. There was a small pie. And
I had a bit of salad and some pork.
Yeah, there weren't really many hot food options. A lot of it was sort of different salads and things like that. and it just wasn't a great range that was available on offer in the buffet today.
We then bumped into some of our friends who actually are leaving Explorer today. So they were getting a flight back to Birmingham later on, and we were just walking down the corridor when we bumped into them, and it was lovely to have a chat with them and find out what they had thought of their week on board, and they gave us some tips as well of things that they thought we should do.
We were now absolutely exhausted because we really hadn't had any sleep at all the night before, so we thought we should head back to the cabin, as the time had now got to 3 p.m. where the cabins were available for use. So we went back to the cabin, unpacked our suitcases, and then had a nap for a couple of hours.
Somehow in that time I managed to lose my cruise card. I can't believe I've not even been on board for a day yet. I have this special talent of losing cruise cards in cabins. Last time I found it in my passport, days and days later. No idea where I've lost this. So after we had headed out for the evening, I had to pop back down to reception, and they quickly gave me a new cruise card. It really wasn't a problem at all.
We met Dan and Jay in the Squid and Anchor for a pre-dinner drink at about 7 p.m. We had booked Kora for our dinner tonight for 8 p.m. So we had a little bit of time to just relax before that.
For my starter in Kora, I had a tempura prawns. They were really nice prawns and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very tasty. Then for my main, I had a lamb rogan josh. When you order your main, they ask you how spicy you want it. They give you the option of mild, medium or hot. I asked how hot it was and he recommended I have medium, but I actually think hot would have been fine for me because I quite like spice.
Then for my starter, I ordered the chicken Shanghai, which were sort of chicken dumplings. They were really, really nice and I really enjoyed them. There was a bit of a dipping sauce with them too, which was very tasty. And then for my main, I had a prawn madras. I asked for this to be mild and... Pardon? Yeah, which probably is a bit wimpy, but I didn't want to take any risks, especially as it was a madras. I thought that there was a chance that could be quite spicy, and it came out and it was indeed mild, but it was tasty and I did enjoy it. We did also order some sides. We ordered 3 sides each. We were advised to order 3 sides each. I had fried rice, onion bhaji and naan.
And I went for onion bhaji, steamed rice and the naan. We were all quite full at the end of this meal, so we chose not to have a dessert. To be honest, none of them really massively appealed to either of us anyway. With my dinner, I had a glass of Pinot Grigio and found that this wine in the dining room was better than the Pinot Grigio I'd had in the Squid and Anchor earlier. So I'm hoping that there's going to be an improvement in the wine for the rest of the cruise.
By now it was time for the sail away party up on the pool deck, so we headed up there, and to be honest, it wasn't as busy out there as we expected it to be. We got a table pretty quickly. It was a little bit chilly, probably, which is what might have put a few people off, but we enjoyed the atmosphere there. There was lots of sort of fun dancing and people having a great time.
The entertainment staff were really good and they were trying to get people involved. We had got a gift from Dan and Jay on the table. We'd got an ambassador teddy and the cruise director walked past and was not impressed at all that we had this ambassador teddy on board. So Laura was very, very happy because she got given Captain Mac.
We assume this is the kids club mascot on board, but we were so surprised when he came back with this. We weren't expecting to actually get given a gift, which was quite cute.
They also tried to encourage us on numerous occasions to get up and dance, but we explained to them that we were very tired after our lack of sleep over the day and promised them that there would be some dancing involved later on in the cruise.
We were a bit chilly, so decided to head back inside, and we found out that there was karaoke happening in Squid and Anchor, so we headed straight down there to see what it was like. On our last cruise on Iona, the karaoke wasn't the best quality, so we were interested to see if the standard of singing was any different on here.
We felt like we were watching a Broadway show at times with some of the quality of the singer. Honestly, they were just getting better and better and better. Every time someone got up and sang, we were like, nah, they're not going to be as good as the last person. On it, no, they were amazing. So we're really hoping there's another karaoke later on because some of those singers were better than some of the cruise ship singers we've seen over the years.
We headed to bed at around about 12:30, which, to be honest, we were super impressed. We made it out that long after such a long day, but we were definitely ready for bed and we were very pleased to be heading back there.
Our first impressions of the cruise so far have been that the staff seem to be absolutely amazing on board. We can't fault the staff. They seem to want to do anything at all for you, and they're all really friendly and chatty. All of the other passengers on board as well are really friendly and chatty, and it seems like it's going to be a really good week. We were a little bit disappointed with the food at lunchtime, but enjoyed our meal in Kora and have really enjoyed the entertainment from the night.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give this video a like and drop any questions you've got in the comments down below. Please do also make sure that you're subscribed to our channel. You can also find us on social media by searching Sisters on the Seas.